At my own birthday party, surrounded by my closest friends and family, my wife stood up, raised her glass, and announced she was leaving me, for a man I personally invited. And the secret she revealed next didn't just end our marriage. It destroyed everything I thought I knew about the last 6 years of my life. I want you to picture the most normal, boring, happy life you can imagine. That was me. My name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old. I work in logistics. I drive a used Honda. I coach Little League on Saturdays. I remember anniversaries and I never forget to take the trash out. I am not dramatic. I am not the kind of guy things happen to. Or at least, I thought I wasn't. My wife, Carla, and I met in college. She was studying communications, I was studying business, and we met at a mutual friend's apartment during a movie night. She laughed at something I said that wasn't even that funny, and I was done for. Completely gone. We dated for 3 years. I proposed on a hiking trail because she always said she loved nature more than fancy restaurants. She cried. I cried. Her dog ran through us and knocked the ring out of my hand, and we spent 20 minutes searching through leaves trying to find it. It was perfect. Imperfect in the most perfect way. We got married at 27. Bought a house at 29. Started talking about kids at 31. The kids part never happened, but we told each other we were okay with that. We told each other a lot of things. Now here's the part where I should have paid attention. About 8 months before my birthday party, Carla started going to a new gym. Nothing weird about that. Lots of people join gyms. But she started coming home later. Not like 2 hours later. Just 20, 30 minutes later than usual. Enough that I noticed, not enough that I said anything. She also started caring more about how she looked when she left the house in the morning. Again, not a crime. People change. People grow. I told myself that was a good thing. But one night, I woke up at 2 a.m. and she wasn't in bed. I walked downstairs and she was sitting at the kitchen table in the dark, on her phone, and when she saw me she turned the screen face down so fast she knocked over her water glass. I asked her what she was doing. She said she couldn't sleep and was reading. I looked at her phone, face down on the table, and I thought about asking to see it. I didn't. I said, okay, come to bed soon, and I walked back upstairs. And that right there, that moment, is the moment I replay in my head every single night now. Because if I had just picked up that phone, everything that happened next might have gone differently. But I didn't. And 3 months later, she started planning my birthday party. She was so excited about it. She handled everything herself, the venue, the catering, the guest list. She kept saying she wanted it to be special because I'd had a rough year at work and I deserved something big. I thought she was doing it out of love. I had no idea she was doing it because she needed everyone to be there. She needed an audience. The party was at our house. Backyard. String lights. Catered food. 40-something people. My best friend Marcus was there. My coworkers. My cousins. My college roommates. And my friend, Ryan. Ryan and I had known each other for about 2 years. We met through a work event. Good guy. Quiet. Polite. Always remembered your name, always asked how you were doing. I'd invited him to maybe 4 or 5 things over the years. He came to our housewarming. He came to a Super Bowl party once. He was someone I genuinely liked and was slowly becoming a closer friend. When he walked in that night, Carla greeted him at the door. I was across the yard talking to my cousin, but I glanced over and I saw her face when she saw him. I don't know how to explain it except to say, her face opened up. Like a window being thrown open on the first warm day of spring. She smiled at him like she hadn't smiled at me in months. I felt something cold move through my chest. But the party was happening. People were handing me drinks. Marcus was telling a story that had everyone laughing. I shoved that cold feeling down and I kept smiling. 2 hours in, I noticed Carla and Ryan were talking in the corner of the yard. Just the two of them. For a long time. I started walking over. And my coworker grabbed my arm to tell me something about the project we'd been working on, and I got pulled into a 15-minute conversation I did not want to have. When I looked back, they were gone. I found Carla in the kitchen 15 minutes later. Alone. She seemed flushed. She said she'd been helping the caterers. I looked at her. She looked at me. Something passed between us that I still can't name. The party ended. People said goodbye. Ryan shook my hand, told me happy birthday, and left. I thought, okay. Maybe I imagined it. But I couldn't sleep that night. I lay there in the dark and I thought about the way she smiled at him. The way she turned her phone over at 2 a.m. The gym. The extra 30 minutes. I got up at 6 a.m., before she woke up. And I did something I had never done in 6 years of marriage. I went through her phone. It took me 4 minutes to find everything. They had a second messaging app. One of those apps that looks like a calculator on your home screen but opens into a private inbox when you type in a code. She'd had it for 7 months. 7 months. I sat on the bathroom floor and I read every message. I don't want to share everything I read. Some of it I'll never repeat out loud because saying it out loud makes it more real. But I'll tell you the parts that changed me. They weren't just talking. They had been meeting. Twice a week, sometimes 3 times. Always during her gym hours. There was a hotel they went to with a name I now cannot drive past without feeling sick. She told him she hadn't loved me in years. She told him that being with me felt like living inside a waiting room. She told him, and this is the one that broke something in me permanently, she told him that she'd stayed because she didn't want to hurt me and because she was afraid of what I might do. She made me sound like something to be scared of. I, who have never raised my voice at her. I, who cried at our wedding. I, who still left her notes on the coffee maker some mornings just so she'd see something kind first thing. She made me into a villain in a story she was telling someone else. And then I found the message from 2 days before the party. She had texted Ryan and said, "I think it's time. I want to do it at the party. I want everyone to hear it from me. I'm done pretending." He responded, "Are you sure?" She said, "I've never been more sure of anything." I put the phone back exactly where I found it. I went back to bed. I lay next to my wife and I stared at the ceiling. And I waited. I had 24 hours where I knew everything and she knew nothing. I've thought about what I should have done with that time. I should have called a lawyer. I should have called Marcus. I should have packed a bag or changed the locks or done something smart and strategic. Instead I just functioned. I went to work. I came home. I made dinner. I asked her about her day. She told me about a show she was watching. We sat on the same couch we'd sat on for 5 years and she talked about a television show while I sat there knowing everything. The next evening, I asked her to sit down. I put her phone on the table in front of her. I said, "I know about Ryan. I know about the hotel. I know about the app. I know about all of it." She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She looked at the phone, then she looked at me, and she nodded slowly. Like she'd been expecting this. Like she was almost relieved. She said, "I was going to tell you." I said, "You were going to tell me at my birthday party in front of 40 people. And she said, "I need you to really hear this," she said, "you deserve to hear it somewhere you couldn't make a scene." I felt the room tilt. She said she'd stayed too long already because she was worried about how I'd react. She said she'd been walking on eggshells for years. She said she never felt like she could really talk to me. I asked her to name one time I had ever been scary or aggressive or threatening toward her. She couldn't name one. Not one single time. But she said, "It's not about what you did. It's about how you made me feel." And then she said the thing that I keep turning over in my hands like a stone I can't put down. She said, "Ryan sees me in a way you never could. He makes me feel like I matter. And I know this is hard, but you have to understand, I didn't plan for this to happen. You can't control who you fall in love with." I said, "You controlled yourself enough to download a secret app." She didn't have an answer for that. Then I asked her one more question. I asked her if Ryan knew she was married when they started this. And here's where it gets worse. She got quiet in a different kind of way. A way that made my stomach drop. I said, "Carla, did he know?" She said, "We need to talk about Ryan." And I said, "What about Ryan?" She took a long breath. And she told me. Ryan didn't just know I was married. Ryan had actually come to me, 4 months earlier, and tried to tell me something was wrong. I remember the conversation now. We were at a sports bar, watching a game, and he said, "Hey man, there's something I need to talk to you about, but I don't know how." And I'd made a joke, and the game got exciting, and he said, "Maybe another time," and I said, "Yeah, of course." He tried to tell me. But here's the part she revealed that made my blood go cold. She told me Ryan had been trying to end it. For the last 2 months, he had been pulling back because he felt guilty. He told her he couldn't keep doing this to me. He told her she needed to either come clean or he was going to. The birthday party, the big announcement she'd planned, wasn't to celebrate leaving me. It was because she knew Ryan was about to tell me the truth himself, and she wanted to control the narrative first. She wanted to walk into that room, in front of all our friends and family, and frame herself as the one bravely walking away, before I found out she'd been cornered into confessing. She wasn't leaving me for love. She was staging a performance so that the story everyone remembered was the one she wrote. I stood up. I told her to get out of the house. She said, "I have nowhere to go tonight." I said, "That is not my problem." She left. And I sat on my kitchen floor, the same floor where she stood at 2 a.m. with a secret phone, and I didn't cry. I just sat there in the quiet and I felt the entire architecture of my life come down around me. The next 3 weeks were the strangest of my life. The first thing I did was call Marcus. I told him everything. He sat with me for 6 hours that night and didn't try to make me feel better with empty words. He just sat there. That's what real friendship is. The second thing I did was call Ryan. I know what you're thinking. But I needed to hear it from him. He answered on the second ring. He sounded exhausted. He said, "Daniel. I'm so sorry," before I even said a word. We talked for 2 hours. He confirmed everything. He told me he'd been trying to end it for months. He told me the guilt had been destroying him. He told me he was the one who had ultimately pushed her to come clean, or he was going to do it himself. He was still wrong for what he did. I want to be very clear about that. There is no version of this where Ryan gets to be fully the good guy. He made choices. He could have told me the truth months earlier. He should have. But he didn't fabricate a story or try to cover himself. He just told me the truth, start to finish, and then he said, "I understand if you never want to talk to me again. I wouldn't blame you." I haven't talked to him since. But I haven't decided if that's permanent yet. The divorce process started within a month. Our friends split, as they always do. Some sided with her, people who only heard her version, where she was brave and finally free and following her heart. Some sided with me. Most just went quiet, the way people do when a marriage dies, because no one knows what to say. She moved in with her sister. Not with Ryan, apparently whatever they had collapsed under the weight of what they'd done to get there. Some things can't survive the truth of how they started. I sold the house. I couldn't be in it. I'm in an apartment now. It's smaller than I'd like. The walls are thin and I can hear my neighbor's TV at night. But it's mine, and there's no one in it lying to me. Some mornings I wake up and I feel something close to okay. Some mornings I wake up and I think about a note I left on the coffee maker 2 years ago that said, "You make everything better." And I wonder if she read it and felt guilty. Or if she read it and felt nothing at all. I don't know which one is worse. Here's where I am now. I'm not broken. I'm building something. Slowly and badly and some days without much hope, but I'm building. I coach Little League on Saturdays still. The kids don't know anything about my life and that's the most relieving thing in the world. They just want to know if they're batting third or fourth, and for exactly 2 hours every week, that's the only problem I have to solve. But here's the thing I can't stop thinking about. The moral knot I keep pulling at. Ryan tried to tell me. He sat across from me at a sports bar and said, "There's something I need to tell you," and I made a joke. He tried. And then he kept trying, quietly, until he forced her hand. He was still part of the betrayal. But he was also the reason I eventually found out the full truth. My wife spent 7 months lying to my face. She slept next to me, ate dinner with me, planned my birthday party, and spent that whole time constructing a version of events designed to protect herself, not me. Ryan slept next to no one in this story. He sat with his guilt and eventually let it eat him enough to push toward the truth. So here's my question, and I genuinely do not know the answer. Do you think Ryan deserves forgiveness? Not friendship. Not a pass. Just forgiveness. Because some people in my life say he was just as bad as she was. He knew I existed. He knew I was her husband. He sat at my birthday party and shook my hand. But other people say that he's the only reason I know the truth right now. That without his guilt eating at him, Carla might have kept going indefinitely. That she was never going to confess on her own. Some days I think forgiving him is the only way to forgive myself for missing every single sign. Other days I think forgiving him is just another way of letting someone off the hook because it's easier than being angry. I don't have an answer. I genuinely don't. But I know this, the most dangerous lie I ever believed wasn't something my wife told me. It was something I told myself, that a quiet life and a good heart are enough to make someone stay. They're not. People leave. People lie. People plan their exits while you're planning your future. The only thing you can do is figure out who you are when the life you built gets taken apart, and then decide, slowly, badly, some days without much hope, who you want to be next. I'm still figuring that out. But I'm still here. Now I want to hear from you. Ryan tried to end it. Ryan pushed her to confess. Ryan was also the man sleeping with my wife for 7 months. Does he deserve forgiveness? Or is guilt without consequences just guilt with better PR? Tell me what you think. I read every single comment. And I'm still trying to figure out what the right answer is.